what is one thing that you have a contrarian conviction about from any area of life, whether that's work, politics, socially, or at home? What is the hill that you would die on defend?
It's something I'm thinking about at the moment. I've been thinking about for the last couple of years is just the idea around where it stems from is to say, pat on the back, you did a good job there because you were tenacious or you were driven. And then I was like, well, was that you? Or did you have any way in doing that? Because why do some people, when they were faced with similar circumstances, had maybe a less than positive reaction to it and maybe crumbled or and then it got me thinking about this idea of self-determinism and decision-making. And I was listening to someone speak around the chemistry of decisions. And ultimately, at its most basic 0-1 level, everything is chemical. And ultimately, and if everything is chemical, that means and my chemistry was set at time of when chemistry is set, what control do I have around those decisions that I perceive because a lot of everything is luck, right? Where you were born, what skills you were born with at the time where those skills are either valued or not valued.
What family were you born into?
What family? All of that is, what gender when that gender is favored, what race when that race is favored. Those are big macro things which ultimately determine your current success in life. Not all, those you had no control over, but those that you seem to have locus over, I'm questioning, do you have any of that?
Yeah.
And then that brings you into this whole world around, exactly, self-determinism versus, free will or agency. And I guess the one takeaway is don't be too self-congratulatory and be grateful for everything, because a lot of the times it's sheer pure luck.
It's two different things for me. So the hill
I would definitely... I know. I've got to remove half of that question. Yeah.
The hill I would definitely die on is free speech. And I think we've lost the ability to just tolerate others, no matter how difficult their views are, and particularly, coming from the military originally, not always a popular organisation, but happy to, on occasions, you put your life on the line to defend people's ability to call you an awful human being, which, fine, I can live with that. Contrarian-wise, I think anyone who found out that who knew me back in the day, found I joined the military, that was about as contrarian as I could get. Does not take direction well. Fairly independent. As Will still suffers to this day. So,
I think the thing that dying on the hill, I think to add to Ed's point, it's the conscious choice on when to make that call is the fascinating one for me. So my father gave me some great advice years ago, which was the majority of times when you're faced with a decision, you need to ask yourself the conscious question, am I willing to die in a ditch over this? 95% of the time, well, we hope 99.9% of the time, you consciously take a view and say, no, there's a way around it. You need to do a bit more thinking. You need to communicate better with your team or your leadership, all the different ways. But should the time come where you need to actually, I need to die in the ditch, you got to do it. And that's the most important thing. So I suppose it's reinforcing that point about the dying on a hill thing is, and it doesn't need to be just a dramatic metaphor, but it really is about actually not just standing up for your convictions, but once you have to, actually doing it and making sure you see it through. Having a contrarian view, oh good Lord, I wouldn't even know where to go. I mean, pretty much everything that the team tolerate with me is contrarian. I always take a slightly cynical view first. So I've naturally found myself to be quite optimistic. So constructively, I present myself and I present my thought process to myself in the opposite way.
You sound like a CFO,
which is a bit miss. But what it means is that once you can then round the circle, and particularly as we all work together and as thought processes come together, you can find a really healthy, constructive equilibrium. So that's probably not how most people operate, but I've sort of taught myself to try and do that.
So you've taught yourself to be cynical first.
Correct.
Okay, that's interesting. I would say, because I'm equally very optimistic in general and can get a little bit carried away occasionally, and I think that sort of natural cynicism, or not even natural, but that forced cynicism, is especially because the environment that we work in, right? Like, everything is exciting, everything could be incredible, but you have to be able to say, hold on a second, okay, yes, I can see where it can go, but what walls do I need to build enough conviction about? Like, what are the items that I should be cynical about? so that I can build enough conviction that yes, if I'm going to make an investment, if I'm going to work with this company, if I'm going to do whatever, that stands. So yeah, no, I like that.
So it's, as it relates to building a company, there is a time and place for tyranny. I think it like loops back to everything we've said.
Yeah.
And it's,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
when you're running your business, sometimes you've just got to, doesn't matter how much you've tried to empower the team.
Yeah, shut up and get on with it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it my way.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have all the facts and figures. And I know this is going to make me very popular with founders and very unpopular with all those that work with them.
It's fine.
But it's your business. It's your baby.
Yeah.
And although we want you to disassociate with it a little bit, when you're in that building phase, like you've just get in there. Don't hold back. Don't ask for permission. And sometimes break the rules a little bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I mean, like, and this was actually one of the biggest learnings when I was working for kind of my family enterprise, because I was having to ask for permission. There were things that we could have done that would have been incredibly value additive that we didn't do because I was told, well, you don't know.
Yeah.
You've not done this before, you don't know. And now, because I can, I mean, these are two slightly different points. I can take the bets that I want to take, but when I see someone in, so actually I've become more prescriptive about how I want us to work with the companies that we work with, because I've now been through like whatever 70 companies that we worked with. And I'm like, okay, this is the pattern of what goes wrong and why it goes wrong. So okay, like you may want to do it that way. Cool. But if you're doing it for me, via me, then you're going to do it this way, because that's the only, that is the way that we protect ourselves and how we get the best outcome for our clients. And yes, I think, and this comes back to your directive facilitative point. It's too easy to kind of sit there and go, okay, it's fine, do it.
Yeah.
I've
hired a senior exec.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no.
When it comes to the crunch, and there are dollars on the line, you might need to just step in and say, actually, you know what? Sorry, this is how we're going to do it.
And it shouldn't be the default state.
Yeah.
Just to preface that. But there's a time and place for it, and like own your bets.
Yeah.
So if you do get involved and it ends up being a big mistake, then like own it and we move on.
Yeah.
Don't blame other people.
I think that the US that we grew up with is gone.
I think in the UK that's probably less contrarian than it is in the
I don't think it's coming back. I think that there's certainly amongst a particular group of people in the US, primarily those on the coast, primarily those with backgrounds like mine, the feeling as well, there was some disruption, and then there was, order
stability,
restored, and now there's disruption again. And I don't think that's what is going on. I think that
the disruption started and continued essentially.
Yeah,
there was a hiatus.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I have the same feeling, and I think that's happening throughout Western economies and democracies at the moment.
Fair point.
I'm sad. I will definitely say, like, I have family in New York, in Phoenix, in Florida, or friends and sort of extended family in Florida and in Canada as well. And like, watching some of the stuff that's been said and done over the last couple of months, I'm like, really? Wow. Okay, fine. If we're going to go down that line, then I'm not entirely sure. And obviously, one thing is that I think that there's been a wake up moment in Europe, which is definitely being seen. And obviously, I think the incoming German chancellor was very, very blunt a few days ago about, Europe can no longer rely on the US. I think that is a shame. I think we were stronger together. It's a bit like the Brexit conversation. I think, I would have said I would have preferred to remain in the EU. I think we were stronger together. But, things have evolved. But I think, your point that I sense very much sadness in when you say that, right? Like, so.
For sure. I mean, I think that, American exceptionalism, it's a real thing, as in when I was growing up, no one ever said to me, oh, the US is the best. but it almost gets programmed into you.
Yeah, it's ingrained. Yeah. It's the manifest destiny sort of thing.
Right. And you know, whether or not that was ever actually true, I'm sure there are plenty of people who would say it wasn't. And by the way, I might be one of them.
Sure.
But any inkling, any thinking, any, you know, facade that might have ever been true, I think has just fully been obliterated.
Yeah. And just before we wrap up, I mean, do you think the US population is cognizant of that at large?
I think that, so at large, no, because this administration won majority of popular votes, so it wasn't just an electoral college, issue.
Marginal, but still.
Yeah. And then I think for, you know, maybe the folks who, you know, didn't vote for this current administration, there is a somewhere between tacit realization, which is, you know, this might be the case, but it doesn't affect me on a day-to-day. So, or just a, you know, maybe more conscious decision of, yes, this is happening, but, you know, look at what, one, this is my home, or two, look at what living here, you know, look at, you know, the economic opportunities that exist, or the this or the that. But no, I don't think there's a collective.
There's not an uprising of feeling that this is, yeah.
Yeah.
I do think what we're going to see is much more US to Europe migration.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think without a doubt. And especially because, you know, for Americans, the trip isn't a big deal.
And it's
right?
cheaper out here.
It's much cheaper here. And, you know, for me, like my family lives on the West Coast now. New York to the West Coast and New York to London, the flight's the same. So
really?
it's not like it doesn't make a material difference to me. And I think a lot of people who grew up in the US likely went to uni far away, have, you know, kind of lived far away from their families. There's less of the maybe
the roots that are keeping them there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes any sense to send humans to Mars.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it makes zero sense. Especially if Tesla's got these great humanoid robots. Why aren't we planning on sending a bunch of those instead of a likely one-way ticket?
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think we should fix where we are before we start trying to colonize somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I mean, but also there's like, but why do we need to send humans there? I mean, it's not like we're great at surviving in space for long durations or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's not like we're gonna go beyond our solar system, because the second you're past the Van Allen belt, you're dead. Like,
yeah.
Space is gonna kill you.
So why don't even take the first step?
Yeah. Well, it's not even don't take the first step. It's just like, but we can do the same thing, but we don't need to send humans there. We got all these robotics coming up, and I think that could be, you know, a much more interesting path forward than, you know, what I think could be a very, very dangerous and risky mission.
But it is, going back to your point just before, it's a marketing ploy, right? Like, it just sounds amazing, sexy, like, you know, let's send people to Mars.
People get behind it.
People will get behind it, right? But without necessarily thinking about the why or the consequences of that either. I mean, like, I always think about it from, well, I say always, when I do think about it, which is rarely, the way I think about it is, okay, send people to Mars. We're in the process of destroying the planet we've lived on for millions and millions and hundreds of millions of years. How long is it going to take us to do the same over there?
Yeah. I mean, whether or not we will destroy the planet or not, I don't know. I hope not. But at the end of the day, like, if we're talking about acceleration, which is like, you know, everyone likes to talk about effective acceleration.
Oh yeah, love it.
A lot faster to send robots than it is humans, period. Like,
send a bunch of Mars rovers and we should be okay.
I mean, we're going to have a plethora of different kinds of amazing robots in the not too distant future. Like, that can do lots of amazing things. Like, there's just doesn't make sense to risk life for that.
How far, I mean, just a very side question, how far off from fully automated kind of manufacturing lines or warehousing do you think we are?
I mean, we have fully automated factories today of different types. You know, I don't know that it always makes sense to fully automate things. I mean, you automate where you can, where it makes sense, but I mean, we're kind of there today already.
Yeah, no, I guess so. Maybe to rephrase the question somewhat, like where you just simply do not need human interaction.
Oh, I mean, a lot of manufacturing, you just don't need human interaction.
Yeah.
They're just small menial tasks. But I mean, I also think that about a lot of human tasks today. You know, I mean, obviously cooking. We've got a portfolio company, Kaikaku, who's building robotics, you know, for restaurants, so that, you know, you can sort of produce consistently high quality food at speed. And, you know, you only need a couple of people running the entire shop, and you can service, you know.
You don't need a bunch of people chopping onions and cutting potatoes.
It's not a good use of their time. It's not a good use of the company's time. It's just,
I mean, I mean, this conversation, like it's the same one as AI, right? Like it's exactly the same one in knowledge industry, right? And the question I always come back to is, okay, yes, you could have machines, whether that's software, whether that's hardware, doing these tasks. But part of the learning process to get to the higher levels of being in that example, you know, an excellent three Michelin star type chef is having gone through that process of learning, okay, when I cut an onion like this, the flavor comes out like that, but if I cut it finer, something else happens. Like there is a learning outcome from the process of doing some of those menial tasks. And I think about it a lot in terms of, say, my industry or law, for example, where I wonder and I have a concern about, will we have enough people then coming through the system really learning from the ground up to be able to make those harder decisions further up the chain? And like, how do we find that balance? I mean, I appreciate that that's a fairly complex and broad question, but it you know, that's the bit where I'm not sure about, you know, does it make sense to stop humans from doing some of these tasks altogether?
I completely appreciate what you're saying, and I think it kind of comes down to the individual, honestly, because, you know, you can go into any high school in the United States and you'll find students that are just learning the algorithms to get a good grade on a test, and then there's kids that are actually learning the fundamentals behind how, you know, to solve that particular problem. And so, like, I think of AI as like, all right, if you want to shortcut it, go ahead, use AI. You're going to shortcut the learning. But if you want to fundamentally understand how these things work, you still have to get hands-on.
Yeah, you use it, but you don't let it replace you. You essentially, you use it to learn faster and or more than others, and that will set you up.
And I think there's lots of great examples of that today, you know, with like professional poker and chess players training with AI. And, you know, I mean, I'm not professional in any of those fields, but, you know, generally I think they've said it's helped them step up the level of competition.
Yeah. Well, it allows you the opportunity to have more. I mean, it's essentially more bats, right? Like it's more time at base, right? You are able to test yourself against hundreds or thousands of potential competitors in poker, for argument's sake, or different profiles of competitors, versus, okay, I can only play with a human being, therefore there is a limit to the number of different phenotypes of person that I'm going to play against in the real world.
Suffering breeds innovation. And so one thing I fear or I'm concerned about is that my children are being raised in an environment that is much more privileged than mine, and that they get access to a lot of things without suffering. And all of us, this is a very counterintuitive way of thinking, because naturally we are wired to protect our family.
Parents, we don't want them to suffer.
And so, and all of us say like, I'm going to make them uncomfortable. And it's just like, go pay for your ice cream, right? Like that is the way I'm making you uncomfortable. But actually experiencing real hardship in life creates hunger, creates drive. And particularly and definitely if I extrapolate that to the world of work for me, which is working with entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs that go through hardship, that go through difficult moments in life and experience really kind of life-changing things when they are younger, are the ones that build the true resilience, which is the buzzword that all of us use when we say that we want to back resilient founders. But how do you build resilience? And you build it through these types of experiences, right? So I am concerned that I am not giving my children enough hardship in life.
I don't think people think though. I think most people are intelligent, but I think most people are kind of programmed or conditioned into what they say. So I think if there's anything that I'd say in answer to that question would be that, you know, intelligence is nothing without consciousness, right? I think a lot of people are operating at very low levels of consciousness. They assume they're thinking, but they're not. And they're basically, you know, influenced by whoever, and they're just repeating and regurgitating what's ever said. You know, I think, you know, we've all been there. I mean, obviously, you know, during the pandemic, you know, during, you know, different things that's happened over the last few years, I think we've all voiced and said things. I think we're all learning as we go along. I think we've become a very sensitive world where people can't voice things without it being taken or misinterpreted into another thing that it's not. And also there's people that are very Machiavellian and obviously play on this. I mean, we mentioned before about Elon Musk and things he's up to over the last few days. And I think, you know, people zoom into these characters and, you know, have such a strong opinion and what they don't realize is they're being played, right? Obviously, they're just basically being free marketeers or data entry on social media, unpaid for these guys, right? So I think for me, I think if people, and I've only learned this myself recently, I'm a work in progress myself. I think you need to just zoom out of everything. You can't control what you can't control, and if you do try to, it's a very miserable place to be. So I think you need to just basically uplift yourself and just zoom out of what you can't control, and you know, really work on your own knowledge of self and seeing the world for what it is and not what it is perceived to be.